Hello and welcome to episode 331 of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
I'm Bill. And you know what, Jason? I want to start with getting all the hate I have in my system out.
Okay. Purge.
James Harden and Daryl Morey deserve each other.
Yes,
and I feel bad for the people in Philadelphia, and I feel worse for Joel Embiid.
Agreed.
But what a shitstorm. I mean, as soon as you say you're not going to trade him, he already goes into James Harden. I'll show you why you're not going to trade me.
Yeah.
And just what a divisive, egotistical, non-contributor. And I tweeted out this morning, I said, my nominee for the most egocentric, least team-centric, most divisive player in pro sports is James Harden.
Yeah, and I don't know how because I know I listen to some podcasts where they try to put him historically. And I feel like much like Karl Malone, who's a very different sort of player as far as his playoff failures, but like the longer time goes and you just look at their stats analytically, like James Harden was obviously, Daryl Morey, analytics movement. He was, the poster boy for analytics is why James Harden is great, right? But
I guess
you have a decade of playoff failures, including last year. He played great in game 1 and 3 in Boston. And then game 6 and 7, he disappeared and they lost. He's quit on multiple teams multiple times, and then you bring him into your organization to play along Embiid. And like you said, the 76ers pull off trade talks, and immediately James Harden is like, well, I won't be at camp. And it's not even time to report to camp yet.
Nope, it's 2 months away, but I'm going to show you right now why you better speed up the trade talks.
Yeah. Like, he wasn't even going to wait to, have any sort of, we'll see if he shows up. Then and there, he's just like, nope, I won't be there. So you better better open those trade talks back up.
I think, and I really am having a hard time dealing with this, but I think of any athlete in any sport on any team, he might be my most hated athlete ever. I think that's a statement.
Yeah. I think I've also had, because, we're obviously very pro Russell Westbrook on our podcast, as we have been.
Yes.
And he and James Harden have sort of been, because, they were both on the same team. They chose Westbrook over Harden in Oklahoma City, traded out Harden. And then they've sort of been back and forth. They both won MVPs and both been multiple All-Stars. But, Russ is always going to give you his all. Now, I know the last year LA, or the Lakers at least, it went a little bad. But I feel like the LeBron hype train was just sort of throwing him under the bus. That immediate empire was throwing him under the bus from, day one. And it was just like, well, that's great. That's a good way to alienate your teammate.
But when you went to Washington, you made Washington better.
Yeah.
When you went to the Clippers, you made the Clippers better. So I got no problem with Russ.
No, and Russ is going to give you his all. And again, it's just, well, is that enough anger out? Do you want to go to some positive? Well, let's go to sad NBA and then positive NBA.
All right. Let's go to the Hall of Fame inductions.
Okay.
Love Dwayne Wade. Love Dirk. Love Pops. Love Becky Hammond. I thought those were all great speeches.
Yeah.
Great introductions. People, their love of the game, their love of their teammates really came through. But I thought the one I liked the best, and I didn't think I would, if you'd asked me going into it, I would have said I would probably like Dwayne Wade's speech the best. I like Gasol's speech the best.
Yeah. Gasol was fantastic. He's the one that seemed to have the viral moment. As everybody pointed out, you had, everybody from that era, Dirk, Gasol's, Dwayne, Hammond, Pops, Tony Parker. It was just, it was just really nice to see.
It was really nice to see. I mean, that was all people that were really deserving. But Gasol's speech about Kobe Bryant, I thought it really touched me. Yeah. I could feel his emotion coming through the TV.
Without question.
And Tony Parker made me laugh, though. He was pretty funny.
Yeah, the Frenchman, the sly Frenchman, Tony Parker. The ladiesman, the coxman, if you will.
And I got to see Tim Duncan with dreads.
Yeah.
Which I never thought I'd see.
Still probably, despite where he gets listed and things, still probably one of the most underrated players because he just didn't have the pizzazz, the personality of everybody else in his era.
The nickname was perfect, the big fundamental.
Yeah.
Perfect nickname. I thought that Dirk was kind of funny. I thought Dwayne Wade was heartfelt. I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was one of the best Hall of Fame induction groups I've ever seen.
Now,
It was really positive, really good.
I have seen some chatter.
Now I have a question though,
Okay.
and this just might seem, it seems illogical to me to do the Basketball Hall of Fame inductions in August.
Yeah, it does. I don't know if
It just does.
This feels like it should be last week of preseason before the season, or something you do, as part of.
Exactly when it should be. It should be the last week, right before opening week. That's when it should be, or it should be the day before the first opener, the day before the first game.
Yeah. Because again, I know they want to be at 365, 24/7, but it sucks that the Hall of Fame comes in the middle of, opening week of NFL preseason football, college realignment. Like, it's just,
Yeah,
it got lost.
It's just bad timing. But it's not affiliated with it's not a direct affiliation with the NBA. It's its own thing.
And that,
So I mean, like the NFL, you do the Hall of Fame game and you do Hall of Fame inductions the same weekend. Baseball, you do it in the middle of baseball season, in Cooperstown.
Yeah.
I don't know when hockey is, but basketball just doesn't make sense. August is of all the months you could pick, I think August would be my last choice.
Do you think, and I've seen some people claiming that this needs to be done, do you think the NBA needs its own Hall of Fame that is just the NBA? Or do you think that's a waste of space and money and they're good with the Springfield, Massachusetts Basketball Hall of Fame?
I've never thought about that before. I would tend to say you've got an established Hall of Fame that's been around for a long time. It's in the birthplace of basketball. I probably wouldn't replicate it. I'd probably keep it the way it is. I might strengthen my relationship with it.
Yeah. Because I know when you go, and I have been, don't take a field trip there because it's a nightmare. Because I brought a group of kids there, and it was something.
And you went to the new building too, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
It's not bad, but I mean, it isn't like,
It can be a little underwhelming.
it can be a little underwhelming. And you would think like the NBA could do it, I mean, if you're going to put a team in Vegas and you have Summer League in Vegas, like if you open up the NBA Hall of Fame in Vegas and just go, holograms and all sorts, interactive stuff, and it's just NBA. And I guess WNBA would probably be included just based on their relationship, but I think it could be kind of cool. Again, I don't know about the financials of those sort of, institutions and how they make money, but
No, but I think I question the August thing. I might have to do some investigation as to why that is. It just doesn't make sense.
and you know how in
But
Vegas
getting back to our main point, though, it was a great induction.
it was. Well, I was also just thinking now, like, you know how in Vegas, washed up singers end up doing residencies and magicians doing residencies, right, in Vegas?
Right? Yep.
My NBA Hall of Fame, we're doing residencies. You're paying Karl Malone a month, and you can play one-on-one basketball, or you can shoot hoops with Karl Malone if you get the special VIP. You'd find a couple retired players, and they're in residency for a month. And it's a way to drag people in the door. You get the autograph, and you could have different tiers, which people love. And
I think that's a good idea for any Hall of Fame. I think it's a good idea.
yeah, because I mean, people love nostalgia. And if you had a chance, if there was 4 players in residency every month, you could have multiple times you might want to go to the hotel. And
Yeah.
You do it all up.
I like it.
Yeah,
It's a good idea, Jay.
I'm full of them. Oh, and then I want to throw out my sad NBA story, which is Giannis not going to compete with Greece, which is good for his team and good for the NBA because of his knees. But they probably won't get out, which means they probably won't qualify for the Olympics, so we may not see Giannis in international play, maybe ever again, for someone that loves international play.
It is sad.
Because they're in the group with USA, and it's hard to imagine them getting out of that group to qualify for the Olympics, and then with no Giannis, I don't see that happening either way. So,
Hey, shout out to Anthony Edwards, though, for filling it up and playing well.
yeah,
So since Minnesota's never on television, this is a great opportunity for you to see one of the best players in the NBA.
Yeah, he is definitely on the come up. Like he's already an all-star, and he's on that level of like, does he make the leap to all NBA, first team or second team this year? It's pretty much
He's been looking really good.
Yeah, Because he seems to have the right combination of wanting to be the greatest and the actual physical skill set to do so.
Yeah. Oh, I want to shout out to the Timberwolves for their new City Connect uniform.
Yeah.
Which pays tribute to the 10,000 Minnesota land of 10,000 lakes, which I think is a good tie-in. I thought their City Connect uniform last year sucked, but it was tough to follow up the Prince uniform.
It is.
But this is a good City Connect uniform. So I want to give a shout out to the Timberwolves for that one.
Yeah, they were probably never going to, I mean, the Prince one was tough. Even like the Miami ones, which were always kind of cool, like, a couple of them are just so stand out that it's hard to.
Yeah.
But they continue to do a great job of giving you new uniforms every single year.
Well, you want to talk a little bit about this first week of NFL, the first real week of NFL exhibitions?
Yes.
Anything caught your eye or anything got your attention?
First off, I still love football. Even watching bad preseason football, I couldn't get enough, I'm back in fully, I'm excited. I'm excited to talk NFL more than any sport. It's fantastic. I mean, I guess, good news, we'll start out with ours first. Kenny Pickett and the offense look good for the Steelers.
Very good.
They look very good. They went right down, and George Pickens looks like he's going to be, he's sort of the Anthony Edwards of the NFL. Like, he's put up some highlights here and there. He's got these incredible physical gifts, and it seems like they're unlocking him even more. It's just going to be a matter of play calling at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like anytime the Steelers have him one-on-one, I'm throwing the ball at George Pickens, right?
Absolutely.
Because he's either coming down with it, he's beating the guy, or the other guy's probably not catching the ball. Like, that's how much I enjoy him.
When I watched his highlights, he reminded me of Randy Moss.
Yeah.
That was the player that I thought he reminded me the most of.
He's got a little more physicality to him than Moss, though, too, which is, just fantastic. Trey Lance looks really not very good, which I guess is sort of sad. And again, he seems to have one of those just star-crossed, cursed careers, right?
Yeah.
His senior year in college, or his junior year before he's coming out, is the COVID year. Doesn't get to play a game. It gets in the NFL, blows out his knee, gets in there the next year, gets hurt again. His one big game was in that torrential downpour, so it was hard to tell if he was good or bad because people were, sliding at a water park in that game. So it just feels like whatever was there potentially, like too much time has passed, and I don't know. You just hope to see him maybe get a shot somewhere else.
We'll have to see. I think that, like I said, we're talking offline. I think the story's probably been written. I don't know if he's got a future in San Francisco or not. Wouldn't think so.
Yeah. It is shocking.
And he probably needs to be away from there and be somewhere else. Maybe in a different system. Maybe a change of pace is what he needs.
Yeah. And if he could get, if a team that has an Anthony Richardson or a Fields, a Lamar, somewhere where he could play in the style. Because the one thing I noticed from watching NFL Network, they were saying that, if you watch the 49ers offense last year, it was an offense built for Trey Lance. Where if you watch that first preseason game, this was Trey Lance trying to play in Brock Purdy's offense.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty clear sign that, his skill set doesn't really translate. I mean, it could, but it doesn't right now, and it takes away his running ability and the things that you drafted him for. So he probably needs to be in a system where he's behind, Jalen Hurts or one of the guys that fits his style of play a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Jets look like they pretty solid, but they need some offensive line help. The Saints look really good with Derek Carr.
The Saints look really good. I agree with that one. Very much so.
We saw Michael Thomas for the first time in 3 or 4 years, who, remember, at one time was one of the best receivers in football.
Yep, and I'll caution you by saying it's only August.
It is only August, exactly. And everything else was just week 1 preseason football. So I guess that leads us into our breakdown of what used to be known as the NFC East, but now I think they're legitimately...
Well, before we go, I want to shout out to Brand Jordan and Sean Payton.
Yeah.
Sean Payton is officially a Brand Jordan ambassador now, and he'll be wearing different Jordans, Denver Bronco type Jordans on the sidelines.
That is pretty
because
cool.
Michael likes them, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is time for our predictions. The NFC East, which we did refer to as least, now I wouldn't say most, but I wouldn't say least anymore.
No. Unsurprisingly, the team in last place for both of us, we already talked offline. It's probably not a surprise to anybody listening, is the Washington Commanders, right?
Or if they change their name, whatever the Washington team will be.
Yes, and hopefully they do change the name. Because again, either way you go with Washington Professional Football Club, Washington Professional Football Team, Red Tails, depending on, historically, whatever you go with, just something a little less generic than Commanders.
Yeah.
But, it's Sam Howell, the second-year player in North Carolina, and I think Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. And there are nice pieces there, but they're just, you got to have a quarterback.
Yeah, you do. And, I think that the ownership change is going to be a real positive.
Yes.
I think the players will play a little bit looser, a little bit freer, be a little happier. But I don't think there's enough good players.
And then even some of the good players they had, like you look at a guy that, top 5 pick in the draft, came on like a storm in the rookie season in Chase Young, who has been unhealthy and now seems to have fallen out of favor. There's talk of trading him. I mean, that was one of your blue chip players, right? Your defensive end for the next decade.
You could argue it was the blue chip player.
Yeah, and, now he seems, whether it's health or falling out of the coaches, I mean, there's just a lot going on with that team. It's just not very good.
Agree.
I have the Giants in third place. I wanted to put them in second place, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it.
And I'm with you. I don't know if I'm buying into the Cowboy hype. I mean, it's the most overhyped team consistently every year.
Every year.
Although Greeny does his best to overhype the Jets this year, but the Cowboys are definitely the most overhyped team. But I like the pieces of the Giants, and like you said, and I agree with you, I really do like that coach.
Yeah, I think Daboll is an incredible coach. I mean, like you said, you look what he did at Josh Allen, and you look at Josh Allen when he was gone. Look what he did with Daniel Jones. They definitely have better receivers this year. And they have Saquon Barkley back in the fold with a little bit more money. He's one of the few that was holding out that actually is signed back to his team, which is good to see. And I would really like to pick them. And, you got Kayvon Thibodeau and the way the defense played last year. I was almost going to flip up on the podcast, but we both have we basically have the same order. And in second place, we have as you spoke about them, the most overhyped team ever. And that would be the Dallas Cowboys.
And we'll be debating in week 1 whether Dak should be the quarterback, if Dak can be the guy who takes the promised land, if Dak is a Super Bowl quarterback. And who knows? Yeah. So far, no.
No, and when people show that they love to put him next to Kirk Cousins, and they were like, he's Kirk Cousins with better PR. Yeah, that's about the size of it, unfortunately. Yeah, because they both have the same playoff success. They both have pretty similar regular season stats. You can win 10 games with either of them at your quarterback. There's a lot of similarities there, and we'll get to them when we talk about Kirk Cousins. But, you like CeeDee Lamb. I guess you like Pollard and whoever they're putting in the backfield. Ezekiel Elliott's gone. You love Micah Parsons. And maybe Tavon Diggs, depending on your thought process on him as a corner.
Is James Washington still on this team?
No, sadly he's not.
So they cut him, he's nowhere?
I believe he's nowhere right now. Unless he could be on a 90-man roster somewhere. But he's one, and this can be our second mini Steeler moment. Like, Biletnikoff winner. Seemed to have all the physical tools in the world. Made some really nice plays for the Steelers, but he just has not been able to, No,
and he goes to the Cowboys as a free agent and immediately got hurt.
Yeah, and you were thinking...
Never saw the field last year.
I was rooting for him because I was like, well, the Cowboys need a number 2, number 3 type wide receiver to go along with CeeDee Lamb. And, I he is a guy I like, even though he didn't work out for the Steelers. So it's a bummer.
Well, I'm kind of with you on the Giants, and in fact, I would tell you that I would actually root for the Giants to finish second in this division. But I just think the Cowboys have more talent, and I still think the Cowboys will underachieve. I don't think there's any way they can win the division, let alone go to the Super Bowl.
No.
Um,
This.
there's just no way. I just don't. I think that when the owner is the general manager, I think you have inherent problems in the system.
Yes.
Because you're never going to have the honesty among the coaches. Would a coach actually go against what Jerry thinks? I don't think so.
No.
And I don't think that's healthy.
No. And I must admit, probably my tiebreaker from the Giants versus Cowboys for 2 or 3, which again is just preseason rankings on our podcast, so take that for whatever it's worth. But I wanted to pick the Giants, and then every expert and TV person, NFL Network person, ESPN person, just sort of forced the Cowboys down my throat, and I guess I've sort of bought it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree.
Because even as I'm looking at them, I'm like, I don't know, I kind of like the Giants. But it doesn't matter because I think the team we both picked to come in first place in this division, I think is the best team in the NFC, and I don't even think it's close. And that's the Philadelphia Eagles and I love their new Kelly Green uniforms. They're old, new.
The 1960 remake, I love it.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's a great shade.
I
like it a lot better than that dark shade they had. This is a real cool uniform.
Yeah. I think I
wish it would be their primary uniform.
Yeah, they're sold out for like 6 months. Like if you order one now, it's going to take you, you won't even get it in time for Christmas, they're saying. That's how popular those jerseys are in that city, and that's how popular that team is. And, you have most of the Georgia football team on their defense.
Yeah.
Which
is not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing, considering they've been in the national championship game and they won a couple in the last 5 years. You got Devontae Smith and why can't I think of his name? Their best receiver, but as good of a 1-2 receiving duo as you can find, right?
Oh, AJ
Brown, yeah.
Yep, he's awesome.
And Jalen Hurts is somebody that he's the story you want to tell if you're telling a motivational story, right?
100%.
And he's somebody you constantly root for, and seemingly, takes everything in stride and seems to get better every single year.
And you know what else I like about the Eagles? It's the perfect coach for the perfect team.
Yeah.
It's perfect. It's just absolutely, you couldn't draw it up any better. He's the right guy in that market with that team.
Yeah. And, I was very excited that we got their assistant GM as now the Steelers' assistant GM because I love the way the Eagles draft. They're a well-run organization, and they just, this will be my preview for when we pick our picks, but they are my pick to come out of the NFC, and obviously I think it's most people's pick. And
I think it's a 2-team race in the NFC.
Yeah.
And when we do our West, my other teams in the West.
Okay.
I also like the 49ers, their blend of their coach, their talent, their scheme, their play calling, their talent. I really like that team.
Okay.
But I probably would side with the Eagles a little bit more. But the 49ers are one of those teams, if they stay healthy.
Yeah.
Which has always been their bugaboo.
It has been. Yeah, so again, I think we both love the Eagles. And it's hard to imagine.
The Eagles are going to be a fun team to watch, and, I just don't see anybody in the East being able to deal with them at all.
And obviously we know injuries are a concern for every team, and, you can't pick teams based on future injuries you don't know about. But I don't see anything other than injuries derailing that team.
Yeah, I don't see I see the Eagles winning that division by no less than 2 games, probably 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Just too well put together, and they're consistent. They're true to their team. They're true to their scheme. Great coaching, great talent. But again, the injury, and the only thing you can say at this point in time, it's August.
Yeah.
Anything can happen injury-wise.
Exactly. Well, let's see. Do you want to move on to?
Well, I got talk a little about Little League World Series too.
Okay, I didn't know that was going on still.
Well, Little League World Series starts this week. Starts the 16th. So for the first time ever, we got a team from Cuba in the Little League World Series.
Nice.
So I think that could be really interesting on the international side. 2 teams that caught my attention on the U.S. side is Nolensville, Tennessee, which is there for the 3rd straight year. And I really like their team. and there's a team from New Albany, Ohio that looked pretty good. And a team from Pennsylvania that looked really good too. So those three stood out to me. There was a team from Alaska that made it to either the semis or the quarterfinals in the West that I was kind of rooting for, just because Alaska's not somewhere you think of for baseball.
No, you wouldn't.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. The Southeast region had some really good teams in it, and the Tennessee team came out of it. And I like them pretty well. They're going to be fun to watch. But it's fun. And then a shout out to the Little League World Softball team. The girls from New York won that, Massapequa. They won, and it was fun. I watched a team from Italy beat a team from Oregon, which, that's pretty big accomplishment, right?
Yeah, it's very big.
So I watched that. That was interesting. Yeah, I think that's all I have on that end. I just wanted to make sure that people knew that started this week, and it's fun. I always have the enjoyment watching that, and I think that the Major League game at Williamsport is the Phillies, and I forget who they're playing. It's the Phillies and somebody.
Okay.
Next Sunday night.
That is a cool event. I do like that one.
Yeah.
Well, I had 2 food moments back-to-back days this week, Dad. And it's been a while since I've had a food moment.
Wow. Go ahead.
I did Italian Barrel, which is a Italian restaurant in the French Quarter. We tried to go to once before, and then all the power was out, so we ended up having to walk like 3 miles to find a restaurant. But for New Orleans, it's very solid, really well done Italian food, and it's traditional Italian. It's not Creole Italian, so that seems to be the sticking point with a lot of people down here, where they love selling you their Vincent's, which is the heavily influenced. It's more like a Creole restaurant that is Italian influences more so than an Italian restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
But Italian Barrel is it's a little pricey, but I mean it's it's a dressy up, fancy sort of place with the tablecloths and wine and drinks. But it was really, really good food. I had the chicken parm, had a nice crispy edge. You could tell it was pan fried and not the way they do some other ones. And then I had the bolognese on the pasta, and it was a really good bolognese.
And what did Maria have?
She had a shrimp pesto, and it looked like they did not skimp on the shrimp. Yeah.
Good.
I mean, it's place, they put bread out in the beginning and all that sort of stuff. And my second one, I mentioned before that Z's Pizza and Pizza Delicious are the 2 best pizzas down here.
Right.
But neither of them deliver, and they're actually both closed for most of August because a lot of things are closed in New Orleans in August. It's not the time to come visit. So we ordered Pizza Luna, which has, I think, over 1,000 reviews. They're 4.5 stars. We just never bothered to try them.
Is that on Poitras?
I don't know where it is. It might be. But it was very solid pizza. It was good. I know that doesn't sound like it's not as good as the other 2 that I'm speaking of, but it was probably the best delivery pizza we've had in a long time down here.
Okay.
And they have a regular and a thin crust, although it seems like it's the edge is the only thing that changes. Like on their regular crust, you get like an actual, Pizza Hut style crust, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And their thin crust is just, crust, but the actual underneath part is pretty much the same. It's that, 1/4 inch, maybe a little smaller, regular size pizza. But good toppings, good cheese. It's always nice to have a delivery option, for those days you just want to make it easy.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And we hadn't just found a reliable delivery pizza. So that was exciting.
Well, interestingly enough, I was watching, I think it was a History Channel. They have a series on the foods that made America.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched a pizza episode, which was Domino's and Pizza Hut.
Oh.
And I watched it, right?
Right.
And I get done watching it, and I said to your mother, I said, you know what? I think I either want a Domino's or a Pizza Hut pizza.
Okay.
But I successfully fought the urge and didn't have one.
I think Domino's does something that Taco Bell does and some of those other restaurants, and Doritos, and you look at where it's like they are constantly putting out something new on their menu, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's tater tots covered in pizza sauce, or different sorts of breads or everything else. But I will say, every time I've had Domino's, I've been really disappointed.
Yeah, and I remember when we've had it in Stillwater when it first came out. It was like we thought it was great,
And I've
but that's in Oklahoma.
Yeah, and I've done the thing where we've tried all the different crusts, and you're like, there's got to be some combination. It can't be this popular, but it just if you love it, I mean, good for you. I'm happy for you. You have access to.
Well, since I was in Pittsburgh, I did have I had one food moment,
Okay.
and it was at the airport yesterday on the way home. I had breakfast at Permane Brothers.
Oh.
So I decided I was going to have a breakfast sandwich at Permane Brothers. Made sense, right?
Right.
And so instead of breakfast sausage, though, I wanted Italian sausage. And they said they could do that. So when it came, I did not think it was going to be dressed like I thought it was going to be a piece of Italian sausage, cheese, and an egg on Italian bread. That's what I thought it was going to be.
That's what I would have assumed as well.
Well, we would have been wrong when we were wrong because it came dressed like every other Permane Brothers sandwich.
So slaw and French fries smothered on top.
Slaw, French fries, and tomatoes.
Huh.
And I took the slaw off because I just don't like slaw.
Yeah.
But with the French fries and the tomato and the egg and the cheese and the Italian sausage, I got to tell you, it was outstanding.
Yeah. Their food is pretty decent. I think it's a little overhyped, but yeah. But their bread is really good. That's what I was thinking. I was like, a sausage, egg, and cheese on Permane Brothers bread, just as is, would be really good.
Yeah, it was good.
Okay.
So I enjoyed it. But that was my food moment. I was in Pittsburgh for a golf tournament with my friends, and I described it on Twitter. It's a golf tournament for everybody that grew up in Carrick and Overbrook and that area, where you played on asphalt, and the only golf course you ever saw was when you were riding in your parents' car and you drove by one.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny that we had a golf tournament, but we had a nice golf tournament. Uncle Dan had the food catered, and we had some Italian sausage and pasta and some barbecue and some different things. It was really good. It was
Nice.
well done.
I guess my semi-entertainment moment, we went to the Hi-Ho Lounge and watched an open mic stand-up comedian special. And you could sign up. I could have signed up if I wanted to and been up there. You get 3 minutes, and they actually had a special guest, Sean Penn, who has a special on Peacock. He showed up and ended up being the closer.
Mm-hmm.
And they kept saying throughout the night, they're like, we can't say what's. I mean, I've never actually heard of him, but I googled him later. But they were like, tell your friends, like, now's the time. They can still get here in time to watch a real close. But I think everybody should go to an open mic night once and observe it. I don't know that you'd want to sit through 2 hours of open mic comedy on any sort of regular basis. But, it takes a lot of courage to get up there and to,
Yeah.
try and be
And
funny.
I've been to a comedy club too, where a comedian would go and work on new material, and he had his notebook up there, and he would try things out. And I enjoyed that too. It was just different, not. So what do you guys think about this one? And then, yep, I don't think it's good either, and they get rid of it. I'm glad you like that one. I'll keep that in the act.
Yeah, I mean, you got to watch some very uncomfortable people bomb for 3 minutes multiple times.
Yeah.
You were just
3 minutes is a long time sometimes.
and you were trying desperately to laugh because there weren't a lot of seats, and we didn't want to sit in the front row because we didn't want to
Yeah.
be interactive. We sat in the second row, but it turns out only one person sat in the front row, so they were often looking at us in the second row, making eye contact, and you could just see them drowning. And I'm like, I'm trying to laugh, man, I really am. You got to give me something.
Well, my entertainment moment is I binged the last 5 episodes of The Lincoln Lawyer.
I watched that as well.
And you know what I say after I watch something like that? Why can't all television be this good?
And again, it's very down the road, down the middle. Like, it's not, it's not overly political. Like, it's not trying to do too much. It's just a nice,
Michael Connelly writes good books.
Yeah.
And they take his stuff and they make good shows.
Yeah.
The casting is great. The storyline is great. The twist was great. I just enjoyed it.
Yeah. And you can tell that people are into that type of show too, because Suits is doing really well on Netflix, and people were talking about that in some of the critical circles about how, a show that was on, TBS that was, had a relatively large audience, but not just discussed in the main term. But Suits is now one of the highest rated, the most watched shows on Netflix in their entire history. And they said people just like TV, and they like solid TV with fun characters they want to hang out with.
Yeah.
And that the
we
formula,
did all 5 episodes one night.
yeah, and yet the formula doesn't have to be. It's not that difficult.
No.
But yeah,
And then last night we watched Dark Winds again, which I told you about. It's just phenomenal.
yeah. Yeah.
Set in the 70s. So the fashion is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And the cars are cool.
So for next week, do you want to talk 2 conferences since we're getting a little closer to the regular season? We're 3 weeks out.
Yeah, I think we should. Let's do...
You want to stay home and we'll both do the Souths?
yeah, we'll do the Souths. That's good.
Yeah. Because you're in Tampa, I'm in New Orleans. That's a good...
Yep, we'll do
the home
those.
cooking. Yeah.
Then the next week we'll do the Wests.
Yeah.
And then we'll do the Norths.
That sounds perfect. And then we'll be talking real football, which will be very exciting.
Absolutely.
All right. So I guess that's it for this week. Talk to you soon.